So our next speaker is a distinguished also in the field of IRB. He's well known to many of the researchers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He's Professor Abdallah AlAdlan. Professor AlAdlan is the Saudi NIH initiative owner in 2020, and he's the executive director of Saudi NIH Ethics and Compliance. He's the founder and chairman of the National Committee of Healthcare Ethics, and he's the adjunct assistant professor bioethics College of Public Health Informatics at King Saud Abdulaziz University Hospital. He's the adjunct also assistant professor at bioethics at King Faisal University. His presentation is very interesting, and the title will be What's an IRB and its role in research, practical tips, do's and don'ts. The mic is yours. Dr. Adnan.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, thank you, Dr. Samar, for such a great honor to be part of this course, and thank Dr. Abdulaziz Al-Rajhi for all the great work that's done in KKESH, and including the research area, and making sure that everything is done according to the best practice and to the strike all the right chords with ethics. I am indebted to KKESH as I'm one of the products of KKESH when I started my career early in the last century. So I have a lot of respect to whatever happens in KKESH, and I rate myself one of KKESH soldiers in the field. Whenever KKESH needs me, I always come back to answer to the need. So without ado, I'll start my presentation, if I may share it. Take this one. Yeah. Do you see my screen?
اي دكتور الله يعطيك العافيه واضح.
So what is IRB? What are we going to talk today? First, before I start, I usually have this habit is to start with my last slides first. And there is a good reason for that. Usually when you reach the middle of the presentation, you doze or you check your emails or you lost interest or whatever reasons is. So I like to start with my last slides, which has the conclusion, and I'll build up the conclusion with you after you heard it. So I'm biased you from the beginning. So I'm telling you exactly what I'm going to conclude in the end of this presentation. IRB is where PI can be protected, not as most of the people think of the IRB as where PI is get some sort of punished or complicated against or stop research or anti-scientific people. It is for the protection of the PI. The process was designed to limit any potential conflict of interest. So far, it is the only accepted mean to protect human participants in health-related research. We know there's a lot of means, but this is the only international accepted one, which is peer-reviewed with a good rigor to protect human beings, and it's proved its worth, actually. No one can publish any respected peer-reviewed journal without an IRB approval. So, to know what's an IRB theoretically and practically, this is what we're going to present today. Historical quick view of the IRB is needed and going to be presented here, and research center committee, so research ethics committees, and over the time and how it goes. I'd like to start with this picture. This picture actually is one of the most ancient ideas of philosophy of dealing with the evidence or the unknown, let's say. The picture actually is the story behind the picture is that there is a group of blind men wanted to know what an elephant is. So they launched to an elephant that been published. It's present in the town or city, and every blind came to a part of this elephant. So one of the blind people touched the stomach of the elephants, and in his mind, the elephant is a big wall. Another blind man touched the leg of the elephant, and in his mind, the elephant is a huge cylinder. Someone says that no, it's just a fat snake. That the person who's touching the nose, the one who is touching the tooth or whatever you call it, think it's just a big dagger. The one who is in the tail part think that it's just a rope with a hair in it. So everybody has concepted an idea about this elephant, about the truth of this being, the truth of this elephant. So, but what is the truth? What is elephant? Elephant is the collective information that gathered between all of these limbs. It's not the stomach, it is not the leg, it is not the tooth, it is not the air, it's not all of that alone. It's the collective of all of this. And I'll tell you now why this picture is important to understand that the rule of IRB. So, I'm trying here to put this silent. So what do we learn from this picture? Basically, as Jalal al-Rumi, who's one of the sophists and Turkey is one very, very well famous one. If each had a candle and they went in together and with the differences and their opinion, the differences would disappear. So what he's saying basically, the knowledge is a collective way. If we wish to have this knowledge, we have to accommodate a collective kind of different opinions, putting them together in one place, in one room, hence the IRB, and discuss it from a different point of view, hence the committee confirmation of the IRB with the expertise of them, and then come up with the truth of the proposal that we are looking into. Are we looking at a good or semi-good or good intention but bad executed research? This is why thinking with two brains is better than thinking with one brain. So what's an IRB? It's a stand for Institutional Review Board. It is the committee that oversees the ethical conduct in health-related research. It started with the God Committee in the 1964, where the committee has to decide who should be dialyzed. I'll explain this in the coming slides. And in 1995, ICH-GCB was introduced and dominated afterwards. So what is the God Committee? The concept of hemodialysis machine was designed in the 40s, example. So the machine was there, but the shunt, which is linked the machine to the patient, was not invented until the 1960s. But there was a resources limitation. Not everybody who needs dialysis can get the dialysis because they have a limited number of machines and limited number of shunts. That means there is some sort of a body who should decide who get the dialysis and who don't. And this body, in other words, decides who live and who dies. So in 1960, the chair, this person who is building Scrivener, who is the University of Washington, he actually, the person who invented the shunt, he chaired the committee to decide who should be treated and who should not be treated. The Seattle committee was composed of 7 laypersons, a lawyer, a minister, a housewife, a state government official, a banker, a labor leader, and a surgeon who served as a doctor citizen. So these people, everybody see the elephant from a point of view. Should this person get the treatment, the treatment or not? A housewife has her opinion, a minister has his opinion, a lawyer has opinion, and the right opinion is a collective opinion between these kind of different people. So the verdict was based mainly on social worth. This is what was claimed to be in November 1962 in a Life magazine run by Shan Alexanders, who classified this, who actually or put the story into the public, and it was some sort of outcry because actually she used some sort of inflammatory title, the God Committee, the people who was actually trying to play God and decide who should live and who should die. So that's the theory behind a group of people putting their collective ideas together and come up with an idea. So why it's needed? Basically, because the road is paved with good intention. In the next slide, in the next presentation that I'll talk about the personal integrity, I'll give you a few examples of that. There were major misconduct in research that was justified but not ethical. Let's take example of the Nazi experiments. It was justified as the fact as it is needed medical knowledge to know how people are treated when they are under freezing condition. But the way it was executed was not the right way. Thus, due to the fact that there is no regulation, they are almost get away with it. Crime were committed in the name of science and medicine. Criminal researchers were not punished due to the lack of strict rules and poor definitions. So Nuremberg Code started in 1947. It's in the contemporary bioethics, they like to think that this is the first document that actually put a law to regulate biomedical research in general. And thus it was taken by the World Medical Association in the Helsinki Declaration, which is now almost the most important document after Nuremberg Code, and it's the most updated document when it comes to research ethics. The Pillman report has three main principles out of the four that everybody knows: respecting autonomy, respecting justice, and beneficence. Non-beneficence is in the fourth, which is in different rigor. ICH GCB 1990, UNESCO and Bioethics and Human Rights Declaration. These are the few laws that talk about the bioethics. So how did it started? Henry Picker in NEGM 1966 reported or criticized the lack of sincerity in implementing basic concept of informed consent. And he put his hand on more than 50 episodes of code violation. And it was very evident that those papers are not doing research the way it was supposed to do according to the best practice at the time, according to the Helsinki Declaration, according to the Nuremberg Code. And there was some sort of a hidden voice that we are heading toward a crisis in research unless we do something. So they suggested that the journal editors reject article based on violation of patients' rights. So they had to come up with some sort of mechanism to protect patient rights. And the NIH in 1966, based on this kind of criticism, required establishment of IRBs for institutions receive funds for medical research. Medical nursing and layperson members review and approve research protocols prior to conducting experiments. And you can see here the similarity between this formation of the committee and the GODS committee that was in earlier let's say in earlier years. July 1966, policy accepted, and May 1967 extended the policy to all research, not only research that is included human. So this is the international history. The Saudi history, we all in 2000, in year 2000, the medical resources actually, or the medical, let's say, field has been shocked with a very interesting action by one of the surgeons. She attempted the first uterus transplantation in Jeddah, one of the hospital there. And there is it's very well documented. The physician talked about it, and there was a lot of debate about it. And the debate came some sort of an outcry among experts. She should do that, she shouldn't do that. There is a long story behind it that I don't have time to share with you, but it is very well documented, so you can Google it. The point is there is a lot of what be alleged to be breach for the ethical regulations, like, for example, one of the lady who gave or donated the uterus claimed that she were not informed properly. There is no very well documentation to what was said to her. There was no clear documentation of the procedure itself before it's been conducted into human as first one. The reason for having this procedure was not fully justified. So it's one person, this judgment that this is good for this family and this donor, and she took it on herself and started the procedure. And actually it worked. The lady who got the transplantation had 2 menstrual cycle, which is a success in uterus transplantation. So there was a lot of debate about, was it right, was it wrong, until somebody had to stop this kind of debate because it became weaponizing and went into political correctness, and it was food for a lot of fights between different people. So there was some sort of a royal decree to stop nonsense and make sure that this kind of or any similar kind of breaches are not to happen again. 2001, the National Committee of Medical and Bioethics was established based on recommendation of the committee who studied this case of uterus transplantation. So what's the responsibility of it? It's approve or disapprove proposal to conduct health-related research, monitor the conduct of ongoing approved health-related research, suspend or terminate ongoing approved health-related research if new clinical information emerge that makes it inappropriate, or continue to study under original protocol or the investigator do not properly conduct the study. So they have 3 forms of review. They have full review, which take the most of the time, expedited review, and exempted or exempted process. Full review criteria, usually for high risk research, like clinical trial research, where the risk is more than the minimal, whatever the research is, vulnerable group among the study, and vulnerable group means people who their judgment can be temporarily jeopardized by the power play of whom is asking, like, for example, student if they are asked by their physician, prisoner if they are asked by the warden of the prison, or if anybody who is needing money, if they are very extremely beyond the acceptability being compensated, and genetic research because it has a lot of potential to stigmatize people and make huge damage. Expedited review if the risk does not exceed the minimal, and if no patient identifiable data is collected, and in survey base where no patient are enrolled, and if the research process does not require blood and or tissue collection. So if any one of these conditions does not meet, the dossier or the file or the research proposal goes back to the full review board. So even if it's minimal risk, but it has some sort of a blood collection, the committee should decide about it in a full review board. If it's a survey based and there is no blood, but but they need to collect some sort of identifiable data, the committee should decide about it in full review board. Sorry for that. So after the approval, to ensure research are complying with the ethical practice, ensure patient safety, monitor the research progress, spot and deal with any malpractices, adverse event assessments, reapproval of research based on agreed upon intervals, ensure the PI comply with the reporting requirements and closure procedure. So in conclusion, IRB is your friend. The process was designed to eliminate any potential conflict of interest and misjudgment, and what people think that it is the best practice while it's not. So far, it is the only accepted mean to protect human participant in health-related research. No one can publish in respected peer-reviewed journal without an IRB approval. Thank you very much.